Hi, welcome to our channel. My name is Angie, and I'd like to show you some of the historic locations throughout Ontario. Today I'll focus on the historic Van Egmond house in Egmondville, just outside of Seaforth, Ontario. The story of Colonel Anthony Van Egmond begins in a large war and ends in a rebellion that no military historian could have ever taken seriously. Between and after these two events, the colonel and his family built the Huron Road, cared for and encouraged the pioneers of the Huron Tract, grew and harvested the first wheat in Huron County, and established a village that still bears their name today, Egmondville. Van Egmond was born in Holland in March of 1778. Although his early life was not well documented, he was apparently conscripted into Napoleon's army and would serve with him until 1813. Next, he appears with the Dutch contingent of the British-led forces opposing Napoleon, and eventually participating in the Battle of Waterloo. We're going to enter the property of the Van Egmond house now. It is only open to visitors during the summer months, but if you are in the area, you can drive through and at least see it. During his time that he is said to have met and befriended Sir John Colborne, who, as Governor of Upper Canada, would figure in to his later activities in Canada. In 1808, Van Egmond married Maria Susan Elizabeth Dietz, the daughter of a magistrate, and is believed that his first son, Constance, was born the same year. In 1819, the colonel and his family left Holland and settled in Pennsylvania. They remained there for 8 years, making their final move to Upper Canada. Van Egmond arrived relatively well-to-do, as the saying goes. After his arrival, the colonel stayed in Waterloo County while looking for a suitable land to purchase. He met at that time and became friends with John Galt, the originator of the Canada Company. Galt had persuaded a group of British investors to purchase vast tracts of land in Upper Canada. One of those tracts was the pie-shaped piece that stretched from Guelph to Godrich, thereafter known as the Huron Tract. Previous experience constructing pioneer roads, Van Egmond was drawn to Galt's attention, and he was quickly enlisted for this project, hiring him to build a long section of road that Galt proposed as a means to hasten the opening of the tract. Van Egmond and his son Constant were contracted by the builders to build the portion of the road running from Wilmot to Wellington County to Godrich to the edge of Lake Huron. In 1827, the contract stipulated that the colonel had 3 years to complete the task, which also included constructing 3 inns at intervals along a 40-mile route. The task of driving a road through a dense bush in southwestern Ontario was completed within approximately a year, an astounding feat at the time. Van Egmond, who was to be paid 1/3 in cash and the rest in land, became the largest private landowner in Huron, possessing over 13,000 acres of property. Unfortunately, the money was never paid, and the government confiscated nearly all of his land after he participated in the rebellion of 1837. So the family, which opened the Huron Tract, was eventually left with nothing for their immense feat of construction. While building the Huron Road, Van Egmond did not neglect his personal affairs. On his chosen homestead to the west of what is now Harper Hay, in Tucker Smith Ward of Huron East, he cleared nearly 100 acres, planted a crop of wheat, and built a combination home and tavern. We're going to step out now and have a walk around and see what there is to see on the property. To assist with the development of the area, it's recorded that in 1831, he had 500 barrels of flour delivered to ensure the settlers had supplies, and he maintained 24 horse wagon teams to assist the arriving immigrants. Within a few months of the signing of the contract for the road, John Galt had been recalled to England and had been dismissed by the Canada Company. His successor, Thomas Mercer Jones, was a different sort of man, and Colonel Van Egmond was not a fan of his, and it grew to be a strong dislike. In August of 1829, Jones, Tiger Dunlop, and the Mayor Strickland attended a dinner party given by the Van Egmonds. The occasion was the first wheat harvest in Huron. By 1833, however, things were not as jovial. Van Egmond was suing the Canada Company, simply because they refused to pay the 1/3 in cash balance due on the road contract. Also, complaining bitterly about Jones's policy of evicting settlers from small areas. By 1835, Van Egmond had become a member of the Reform Party and then contested the elections in 1835 and 1836. His disdain for the Canada Company grew. Although Van Egmond championed to be elected, he did qualify for votes, but it was Tiger Dunlop's brother Graham, a Tory candidate, who won both contests. The election results appeared to have convinced Van Egmond that reform was impossible, and that only civil disobedience remained. On December 7, 1837, Van Egmond arrived at Montgomery Tavern, now part of Islington in the west part of Toronto, to take command of a ragtag rebel forces that had been assembled there by William Lyon Mackenzie, the most militant of the Upper Canada's reform advocates. By early afternoon, the rebels were dispersed and the leaders on the run. Although Mackenzie escaped, Van Egmond was captured almost immediately and incarcerated in the Toronto Don jail. Unfortunately, he became seriously ill, probably with pneumonia, and died in Toronto Hospital on January 5th, 1838. The government confiscated all of the property except the farm on which the wife had lived. None was ever returned, despite the official pardon issued posthumously by the British government many years later. Such a tragedy may have crushed some families, but not the Van Egmonds. Under the leadership of the Colonel's amazing wife Susanna, they recovered and prospered. It was after her husband's death that Susanna, or Madam as she became known, moved to the small brick residence owned by Constant. A few years later, his marriage to Anne Johnson, he built another home, now standing before you, the Van Egmond house, across the road from where his original residence once stood. That's not the original residence, but get the picture. Here the three lived until their deaths. The house is now operated as a heritage museum and is open to the public in the summer months. Constant established the village of Egmondville and became a justice of the peace. He established a grist mill and flour mill on the shores of the Bayfield River, which flowed beside his home. He also established a distillery in the area. It's hard to believe what would have become of Egmondville, if anything, if the Van Egmonds did not exist. The village thrived with an active commercial life and manufacturers from everything from farm implements to soap and candles. The location of the railway station in Seaforth, north of Egmondville, in 1858 began a slow decline in the commercial importance of Egmondville, although the Van Egmonds mills still operated as significant industrial fixtures. The heyday of the village as a commercial center wound down. Madame Van Egmond lived until 1874 and was buried beside her husband in the Egmondville Cemetery, located behind Constance's home, off there in the distance. The Van Egmonds were and continue to be the truly remarkable family with a fascinating history, ultimately intertwined with the development and formation of the area and the Huron tract. Here lies the unassuming grave of Colonel Anthony Van Egmond and his wife. After he passed away in Toronto Hospital, he was transported back here to be buried on the spot in which his son and his wife could oversee from their home. The stone is very weathered and worn. The names barely visible, but they're there. So, if you are in the area, stop by the Van Egmond house. Perhaps you could stop by the Egmondville Cemetery and pay your respects to Colonel Van Egmond. I thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and join me again soon so we can see where we hit up next time on Historic Ontario. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.